You have one life, just live it and always make the most of your life. Like whatever aspirations, whatever you want to do, just go for it. Like don't ever think you can't do anything.
Welcome to another episode of Bigger Than the Hustle podcast, and now I'm excited because I've got a newbie with me. So she was super nervous coming on, and I've hopefully calmed her nerves a little bit so she can share her story. Now, she's got a really interesting story because she has a professional career and she also has a business career, and she merges the two. So it's a really I think for a lot of the listeners that are going through this at the moment, where they may be in a professional career and want to then start maybe like a side hustle or their own business, it's a really interesting conversation. Hopefully we can share to move you in this direction and block out the fear and do it anyway. So I'm just going to introduce her. Hi, Misha.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
Good. So I'm going to just hand over the microphone to you for a few moments. If you can introduce yourself to the listeners, and then we can go into the conversation from there.
Okay. So my name's Misha. I'm from Essex. I'm 40 years old, and I'm a radiographer, a mum, and I'm the founder of Bondi Coffee. So Bondi Coffee is a superfood coffee blend, which is like for healthy living, and it's a pre-workout, and yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Now, something you mentioned there. So you when you went to university and you studied, that was to become a radiographer. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay, so that I know is quite a demanding career in terms of, the hours you work and when you're expected to work, and your brain works at quite a high level during that time. So then presumably once you finish the shift, you come home and you're tired and then you just want to chill out. Now, where did the energy then come from to create the Bondi Coffee brand and the product, when you already have quite a demanding career already?
So basically what happened was, after I had my little boy, I was a bit low. I had a bit of postnatal depression at the time. And before I had him, I was really healthy. Like I used to go to the gym quite a lot. I lived quite a healthy life. And then after I had him, I became super demotivated. I just didn't have that push, and I was in this kind of spiral of eating poorly, not doing anything. And at the time, I just didn't feel great. I felt quite awful, actually. I know a lot of moms go through this. When you had a baby, you just want to, and when the baby's sleeping, all you want to do is sleep. You don't want to get up and go for a walk, which is good for you. So at the time, I was drinking lots and lots of coffee and to stay awake. And I remember I kept complaining to my husband about, I don't feel that great and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, look, you need to make small changes to your diet or your healthy lifestyle. Just start with small changes, and those small changes add up to big things. So I was like, okay, I drink so much coffee. If I can make it as healthy as possible, then obviously that's a bonus. And that's where it kind of all started. Didn't really think much of it. Looked in the market. There wasn't anything out there that was like normal coffee, tastes like coffee, but had added benefits. So yeah, that's where it all started from. And then I was on maternity leave at the time, so I wasn't actually working. So I started the whole concept while I was off, just in my spare time. And then once I got back to work, I went back part-time because I had my little baby. And then, so on my days off, I would do the coffee, and on my days work, I would work, because it was not much at the time when I first started. It wasn't that serious. So it was very manageable. I was like, this is fun,
Now, something interesting you just said there. So while you were on maternity, obviously the idea, you started creating the idea and concept. And then when you had your little one, you went back part-time, and then you were still doing this in the other sections. Now, most moms will probably tell you, even my wife would agree with this, that having a baby obviously is a huge experience, right? And it takes up a lot of energy. So for you
Yeah.
to have a part-time, be a mom, and create this brand, that's like a huge amount of stuff that you're doing. Now, how did you manage all the things so that you didn't feel like that, oh, I'm letting one thing go to try and keep the other bucket full?
Because I think like a lot of the time when like my little boy Josh, and his name's Joshie was sleeping, I just found I enjoyed it. So it was something that was taking my mind off like feeling tired or miserable, or not tired, not miserable so much, but like when Joshie was sleeping, I know I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't. And I just was so excited about doing this that I just really enjoyed it. So, and then when I go to work, I love my job. So it's like, I just enjoy all aspects of it, that I don't think they kind of overlap on one another, you know, and because I enjoy it so much, I think I'm efficient when I do it, that I don't let it overlap into the other part. Like when I'm a mum, I'm his, you know, like.
Yeah. And it's exciting, isn't it? You know, when you create when you're in that creation stage where
Yeah.
you have an idea and you've gone past the stage of doubt where you think, I'm not sure, and you've gone past that, you've started rolling and you've started moving with it, and you're having conversations with people, and you're looking online, and you're trying to get energy
Yeah.
from different things. And it's such a, I've always said that when, like you said, if you're feeling low, you're feeling down, or where you're feeling where you're not your best as a human being, you're not being your best. I found that being in that creative state where you're actually outputting as opposed to inputting, so rather than consuming, you're producing, right? So
Yeah.
being in that mindset is it's not spotlight on me, or look at me, look what I'm going through, but it's a case of outward, right? So you're projecting outward, and you're thinking, how can I create something? And therefore, because you're not thinking about that inward, or I need to watch TV or consume food or drink or you take drugs or smoke, whatever the addiction is. Therefore, because you're outputting, it just seems like your energy levels just seem to sustain, don't they? Even though you're tired, you can still carry on, right?
Yeah. You don't even realise, like, when you're sitting there doing your work, you could be so tired, but because you've got so much enthusiasm, you're excited, you don't even feel the tiredness because you're so engrossed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
again, like, when I first started, I used to kind of float the idea with some people, and I kind of used to get that kind of, like kind of thing. Like, and I'm quite yes to those comments. I think like the only comments that I really took on board were the ones like, oh my god, that's such a great idea, Mish, go for it. And that is what I went with, and I used all that energy to like start the business and like take it forward. Because you will always get those doubters, that are a bit like, really? Oh, I don't know about that. But I kind of like, they just bounce off, I don't really hear it. So it's quite good. And then when you're surrounded by so much like positivity, that is the main thing, I think. It just drives you.
I agree. And also, what's really interesting, something you just mentioned there. Now, when you were creating and you were talking to people and you decided that I'm still going to roll with this, irrespective of what the feedback is, because it's an actual physical product that you're creating, right? So coffee is a physical product.
Yeah.
What were the steps that you had to go through to create this? Because I know, I have friends that are in the process right now of creating different things, like makeup's one thing, and there's other things. And trying to source where you want to get this produced and actually getting it produced to the way you want it. What were the hurdles that you found before you created and got a product out?
So the first thing, what happened was with the whole coffee concept, like to be honest, my husband was like massively, like he was like, he helped so much, like he did help me do a lot of research and stuff. So we found a couple of places that specialize in healthy products, and at one of the places we wanted it to be UK based because I didn't want to get it from abroad, so I wanted it made in the UK. So I found it was a lot of Google, massive amounts of Googling, looking at other healthy products. Where did they get theirs made? A lot of reaching out, like to be honest, the biggest thing that I found is that just reaching out, people are so willing to help, you know, like there's so much, people are just so great. Like every time I reached out, people would be like going out of their way to help me. They'd be like sending me information about where it was made, what was involved. So I did get a lot of help like that. But the first bit was finding where I could get it made. Then it was I used a lot of Upworks, Fiverr.com, you know, all those places where then I could source people to help me design a logo. I knew what I wanted to call it, but I kind of brainstormed it a little bit. And then it was a case of the actual turning point was when I met a guy who was used to be head of product development for Protein World. And I spoke to him and I told him about the concept and stuff, and he loved it. And then that's when we started working together. But that didn't really happen until another a year and a half after the whole we started getting the ball rolling and stuff. But it is a lot of Googling, a lot of phoning around. And also the first product that we did get was awful. And I did spend a lot of money putting like finance into it, because I wanted to get it taste right. And it was just awful. And that was the point where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do this, you know. But then I met Chris from who was head of product Protein World, and then that's when it changed again. So there was a big dip, and then it went up again.
Yeah. I've always said, you know, it's something you've just mentioned there. So you got your first product or the first samples, and you were not happy at all with it. And at that point, like you said, it could have been, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. You know, you've seen how much energy you've put into it, how much money, and energy being time, energy being money, energy being mind space. You know, all these things get put into it, and then you get it, and you're like, this is not what I wanted, right?
We got it, and then I was in my heart, I kind of knew I wasn't that happy with it. I thought, but no, maybe it's just me, like maybe I'm being too fussy or I'm too picky. So we kind of put it out there a little bit, and we got like mediocre feedback. Some people loved it, some people hated it, and it was like, oh. But in my heart, I was like, just don't know. I'm just not confident talking about this product. I just don't know what it is. And then that's when I was like, no, if I'm not happy with it, I can't expect other people to love it. You know, if I don't love it myself, and that's when we kind of stopped with that one. And then,
and I do believe strongly that the universe does put people in your way when when it knows that you have to carry on. And therefore, you need support somehow to continue down here, and people come in at that moment. And there's so many moments in my life that's happened, not just in business, but in life, where people have come in, helped me along the way. And then, I thank them, and I don't even really see them or know them that much, to be honest. But I do strongly believe that when our path is set, when we're meant to be going down a certain path, even though, at times it's tough and at times it's a struggle, something keeps us going. Whether that be one little conversation, one little thing comes in the post, or a text message comes from someone, and and I think you have to be aware of that, don't you? Sorry?
And I always do believe that everything happens for a reason. Like, I'm a massive believer in that. And also I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction. Like, honestly, I probably live my life by it. Like, I believe whatever what you put out comes back to you, and everything happens for a reason. Like 100%, I believe that.
And it's having the faith, isn't it, that if something doesn't happen, that it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant for you, maybe at that moment in time or ever, but just accept that it's not for me right now. Because, and a lot of the time, what I find with that is a lot of time is because you're not ready, but you don't realize you're not ready until later.
Yeah, definitely. Because when things don't go my way, sometimes, you do think, oh, why me? Or like, why is this happening to me? But then afterwards, I do always think, actually, that happened for a reason, because if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened now,
That's right. Now, you seem, from the short time that we've been sharing so far, you seem to have a really positive outlook on life and a way of seeing things, the brighter side of things as opposed to the darker side of things. Doesn't mean they don't exist, you just choose not to get absorbed by them, right? Now, if we go back to a young Misha, growing up, where do you think that came from in terms, have you always been this way, or is it something that has created as you've got older?
So I don't know. It could be a mixture of things. Like where I live and where I grew up, I was. So obviously, I've always said I'm Indian, but where I grew up, I was the only Indian in my school, and I do think aspects of that has probably made me a little bit stronger. I think it's given me. I don't know. It's made my outlook is a bit different. I think like I tend to be able to. I don't know. I'm not so sensitive with things, maybe.
Does it make you more self-sufficient? Like you can just do
I think
things without
so.
help?
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely made me stronger. And also, I think I don't know. I have a broader outlook on things. Like and also my parents, like they work so hard, just like a lot of parents. My mum had a shop. And I've seen them work. They still work. They're still working like 7 days a week. They're just hardworking, good people. Like that. I think have always given me, my brother and sister, everything that we've needed. Like their time, like given us as much as we want. And I don't know. I think just being around them and. It's a tricky one, I think. Cause when I grew up and when I went to school, I was the only Indian. But then I went to university, I was only surrounded by Asian people. So it was like so different. Like, and it's nice because I think it shows you different aspects of like communities, environments, cultures.
Yeah. No, I get that. And it's funny, some of the things you were just saying there resonate so deeply because when I was born, I was born in Leicester, but we moved to London, so we lived in Edgware for 10 years now. When I started school, I spoke late, so I started speaking like 3 or 4 years old. And when I started school, I could only speak Gujarati. So, and this is in an all-white school. So because I spent a lot of time with my grandma, so I only knew Gujarati. I understood English, but I didn't really speak. Now, so being in an all-white school, speaking only Gujarati, as you can imagine, I didn't have any friends as such. But it is funny because as I grow older, now I look back, it made me so self-sufficient. Like I really can just get on with most things. I don't really need help and support so much, you know what I mean? And then funnily, we moved to Leicester and then it's all Asian, like you'll know Leicester, it's all Asian people mainly, right? And then, so I went to school, college, and then when I went to university, I went to Leeds, and then I was the only Asian on my campus. So I was like going through different times. But it's interesting that all these experiences, what's created I think the ability to just think, not just think outside the box, but adapt. Just adapt and adapt again, adapt again. And that's what I think where success comes from, really, for me especially.
My husband actually is not Indian either. So like, again, there was the whole, because even though I've lived in a very non-Asian area, I am very like in Indian actually. Like if I get in my car, jump in my car, I'll have Bollywood on the radio. I watch, Indian Idol with my mom, or, I go to India every year to see my ma, and I am actually very Indian, but like when I married a person that was not Indian, I think that a few people were a bit surprised because they're like, "You're so freshy," like, and I was like, "Yeah, I know," but these things, it's so exciting, life is exciting, and I think like now my little boy, I want him to learn about my culture and stuff, so I go to India every year, and even though my husband's Australian, so he's half Australian, my little boy, but we go to Oz, so he will see that my husband's whole life, and I think it's great, like, and he speaks Gujarati, like my son, and he's only 5, but, I'll say, what do you want for dinner? And he's like, rotli, like.
Brilliant.
love it. I love it.
It's brilliant. So do you know? So we talked about the past, and we talk about now. What do you think inspires you most today?
What inspires me is that I'm surrounded. I think what is like I'm surrounded by really strong influences in my life. Like my friends are amazing. Like they're strong women who all do their own thing. My husband is very, very encouraging. Like whatever I want to do, he will inspire me to do. Like he is an inspiration to me because he's so dynamic in himself. But I think my mum and dad definitely, like, I see, when I see them, they always inspire me to be a better person. But just because they work so hard, they do everything in their power that they can for us. And also, like, when I see like the successes of like Bondi Coffee, for example, like it just inspires me to carry on my little boy. There's loads of things in life I think that encourage you to do more.
And also, it's what I've always said about that generation, our parents' generation, is so I'm first generation as well, born here. So my dad's from India, my mom's from Africa, and so they're first generation here. Now, what's really interesting about the immigrant mindset is there's so much that can be drawn that we can use within our lives today. So in terms of working hard, looking after your money, understanding what you're doing with it. Family, the importance of having people around you, the support structure that brings, and all those things, those mindsets, like I said, so we have the best of both, right? So we're still connected. So we're the bridging generation, I see, between like our kids' generation and my parents. So we're in between. We've had to learn to adapt and learn both cultures and appreciate both cultures. And I'm so glad I am in this generation because we grew up pre-technology, right? So we had 4 channels, we had Home and Away and Neighbours on TV. But, and then internet came through, and now, my kids only know really internet. They didn't know that existed before Google. They didn't know the world existed before Google, So it's those kind of things. I'm so glad that we grew up organically. We were allowed to grow up slowly and just make mistakes and just enjoy playing outside and playing inside,
Yeah.
And now it's trying to instill some kind of, I know as the generations progress, there's so much of our culture that will get diluted, and I get that. That's just, the society we live in, but trying to hold on to certain things, those things that are important to us, like the importance of family, I have a big family, like my dad's family, all in Leicester. So we have lots of get-together, obviously pre-COVID, and hopefully that can start up again soon.
Yeah.
Now, with the way that you live your life, so obviously you're a mum, so you wear that hat. You're a wife, you wear that hat, and then like you said, your daughter. You wear all the different hats. What do you think keeps you sort of energized and focused, not just to look towards the future, but look today as well, to say, how am I being the best version of myself today?
I think you have to have a bit of me time, definitely, like give yourself that time out, because life can be, for a lot of people, like most people, life can become overwhelming, I think you definitely have to have me time. Like for me, I do Reiki, I do like the holistic therapies out there. I like to meditate, and I do Reiki. I have very, very regularly. I just help, it calms me down, like it keeps me focused. But also I think just being grateful and thankful for what you have. Like you should always, I think that's very important, because sometimes you can get so focused on like, I want this, I want that, but forget about where you're at right now, And I think it's what with my job, because I specialize in breast cancer. So every day I see breast cancer patients, and that is a constant reminder that like I'm so lucky for what I've got. I'm really thankful, grateful that, I've got this. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, like, so, you should live in the moment and always like enjoy it.
It's true. Now, there, like you said, me time. And I define all the things you mentioned there as self-love. It's how you love yourself. Because when you love yourself, can you then really give love and accept love from everything around you, right?
Yeah.
Now, when one thing that I noticed, we were talking about the last generation, our parents' generation, even though they gave up so much to give us the life that we have, and that's why I always feel blessed every day for the life I have, right? But one thing they didn't do so well was look after themselves, where they
Right.
said, I'm going to stop and you guys are all right. It's like my dad, we made him retire. We said, you have to stop working now. You have to go and do something more interesting
Yeah.
than running a shop, right? So, and it's those things that, even though they graft works hard, one thing that I want to learn is when to say stop, when to say no, to say yes to yourself. Because I think that's really important as well. They
Yeah.
didn't know when to stop. And like you said, my dad is a machine. He's 74 years old. He's just doing a charity walk, 1,000-mile charity walk. And
Wow.
74 years old. And I'm like, Dad, you're a machine. Whereas my mom is the bipolar opposite. Like, to go out of the house, you have to.
That generation are like machines. Like when I look at my mom, I'm like, how do you go to the shop for 12 hours a day, then come home and cook like a full-on like vampire
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then still have time to clean and then go to bed? Like, how? That's not even possible.
And no complaints either, right?
No complaints whatsoever. And sometimes you want to say, please, can you complain? Because it will show you're human.
But then it puts you to shame, isn't it? When you're like, oh, I have to vacuum the house.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I first started working, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, and I used to complain. And my mum would be like, oh, go to sleep, I'll do it. And I think, oh my, it doesn't even, it's like not until you're a little bit older, then you just think, oh my God, I can't believe I was like that.
It's true. So now, if we look towards the future, so we're looking forward now, what skills do you think you still need to master, grow, or learn to become the next version of yourself?
Probably still working on my organisation skills because that I'm still not good at. I don't know if I'll ever be good at that, but I can always keep trying because I am a bit I'm not organised at all. Like I'm one of those mums that's rushing to drop her child to school in the last minute. I would love to master those skills because I think they're really important. Like not be so last minute because it does cause me a bit of stress. But also I think just keep learning. I think I really want to just keep learning because I think that you can always be a better version of yourself, and just keep spending time with my family. That's the most important thing to me, I think, spending time with my husband.
Okay, so we're now at the back end of a pandemic, obviously COVID-19, and hopefully we're seeing the back end of it, who knows yet. But during this last year, obviously lots of people's lives have changed for the better, for the worst, or in between somewhere. Lots of shades of grey. How has it been for you over the last year? What kind of things have changed in the ways you think to maybe create a better version of yourself, and maybe some things that have gone that you had before?
I know I keep saying this, but honestly, it's about seeing my family. That has been the biggest thing that has probably affected me. Not being able to see my brother and sister because I'm really, really close to them. And that is, to me, is quite upsetting because whenever we see each other, it's just, you just have so much fun. It's enjoyment, laughter. It's good for the soul, right? And then the other, it's mostly just seeing family and friends. Like my friends are, when you go, when you spend time with your friends, it's a different type of laugh. You're just always laughing, enjoying that. The other thing I found hard is not being able to go to the gym, actually, massive, because I used to go to the gym 3 times a week, not being able to go and then eating poorly and just, not being as healthy as I can be has been quite tough. But then the positives have been that I've been able to really spend time on the business. I'm still been working throughout, which has been great, but we been able to launch into Holland and Barrett, like up and down the country, and all that time we had over the year has meant that I've been able to focus on that, which sometimes there's a lot of distractions and you won't be able to do that. So, but I think, just not seeing friends and family is the biggest thing for me, massively.
Of course. And
really felt that.
And has anything changed in your outlook going forward based on the year that we've just had?
Definitely, appreciating, to slow down a bit. I think it's forced everyone to slow down, take a step back, kind of focus on those little things in life that generally you would kind of miss, and not be because I think sometimes you can get so caught up in the fast pace of life, you forget the little things that matter.
Yeah,
that's definitely
it's true.
Yeah.
Now what we do is I'm gonna now go into a 10 quick fire question round. Okay, so this is just a bit of fun, just so the listeners to understand and understand a little bit more about Misha and the way she thinks, even though it's completely probably going to be random the way these answers come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. You don't have much time to think. It's just whatever comes out of your head, just speak it, even though it is completely random. And it's just, like I said, a bit of fun just to lighten the mood, right? Okay, so you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is the thing you are most afraid of?
Getting old.
Who is your favorite superhero and why?
My favorite hero is... God, you're really throwing me on the spot here. Spider-Man, because my son absolutely is obsessed with Spider-Man and it's everywhere. Yeah.
Perfect. Where would you go if you can become invisible for one day?
Where would I go to?
Or what would you do?
If I could be invisible for the day, I would probably... Gosh. Go back in time.
No, but invisible. You can't go time travel. You just. You wouldn't go and listen to conversations of people and stuff that you didn't.
Yeah, but I'd probably Who would I? But I don't know who I would go back into. Who I'd be invisible to be honest.
They go into like a recording studio somewhere to see how things are made, how things are filmed.
I would probably be invisible and go back in. It's really tough. I don't know.
That's fine. Okay, so here's the question. If you could teleport, where would you go and why?
I would teleport, go back in time. No, go back in time, definitely.
When to though?
To when I was in my early 20s. Because I absolutely being at uni and it was the best time of my life.
Yeah. What is your dream car?
My dream car is definitely an Aston Martin.
Which one? The 9 or the 11?
9.
Oh, 11's better. Okay. If you were stranded on a tropical island, what 2 things would you want with you?
2 things would be as in materialistic things would be probably my phone, and this sounds really shallow, probably my makeup. No, a book. A book.
That's not counted. It has to be makeup. You're not allowed the book. You have taken makeup. even though you're on the island on your own, that to no one to impress, you're still waiting.
Edit that bit out. Edit.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how cool are you?
On a 1 to 10, I believe I'm very cool. So I would say I'm probably 9, but probably to the outside world, I'm probably a 5.
And to your kids, you're probably a 2, right?
Yeah, probably a 1, actually.
Okay. What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
I'm vegetarian, so probably not much. But to be honest, one thing I really don't like is karela.
Karela. I was gonna say karela. What is your favorite summer activity?
Just being outside, going to the beach, and yeah, just lying in the sun.
And if you could write a book about your life, what would it be called?
The life of a Bollywood lover who everyone thinks is a coconut.
Perfect. That actually sounds such a good book. You have to write it now. I think you'd get so many people wanting to read that. Perfect. Okay. So now, Misha, as we head over to the end of the podcast, there's a couple more questions I'd like to ask you, a little bit deeper, just so people get a little bit understanding how you think and what kind of processes go on in your head. Okay. So now we're going to fast forward 100 years into the future, and you're now at the last moments of your life. Now, you don't have enough energy to speak, but you have enough energy to write 3 words. Now, these 3 words have resonated with you all your life, and you hope by sharing them, they can help others people that are listening. What would those 3 words be for you, and why?
So I think the first word would be kindness, like always be kind, because I think everyone is equal in this world and no one's better than anyone else. So I think you always treat everyone with kindness. I think that's just so important. Number 2 would be great, like grateful, like always be grateful for what you've got. Like, you know, I think you can always get so sucked in with like, I don't have this, I don't have that, I want this, I want that, but you do have, you should be really grateful for 100%. And number 3, I think would be positivity. Like that's a massive one. Like I think the power of positivity is so underestimated. Like if you have a positive outlook, positive mindset, it can just do wonders in your life. Like truly.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with all of them, to be honest, fully. So thank you for sharing. And now the last question I have is that this podcast is called Bigger Than the Hustle, and right now you're bigger than the world. So I've got a mic and I've plugged it into 7.58 billion people on this planet. Now they can all hear you, they're all awake, they're all conscious, there's no language barrier, and they're all aware of what you're going to be able to say. Now, if I could hand over this microphone to you for the next 30 seconds, what would your message be to the world?
If I could put a message out, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be 30 seconds, but I would definitely just say that you have one life. You know, just live it and always make the most of your life. Like whatever aspirations, whatever you want to do, just go for it. Like don't ever think you can't do anything. You have one life, just make the most of it. Go for it. You know, do everything you want to do. There's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. 100%.
And it's true. And something that resonated just from the last thing you just said there was, whether you think you can or think you can't, both ways you're right. And if you just continue to think you can all the time, you will be right, because you will work out a way, right? And that's, I think, the basis of a positive mindset. No matter what obstacle comes in your way, you'll work your way around it, under it, over it, or push this thing out the way, because you know that life is meant to be lived, like you said. So at this juncture, Misha, I'd really like to thank you. Thank you for coming on. I know you're super nervous. I know you delayed this till today. So thank you so much. Thank you for giving up your time, because I can see you're a super busy person. I love the way you come into the world, the amount of positivity, the way you share your light, and the way you shine your light so that other people can shine their light around you. So thank you so much for being the energy that you have been today and sharing your message. And now, just before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's actually quite nice to talk to someone, because like I said to you before, when someone asks you those questions, it does put you on the spot a little bit, because you're like, never thought about that. So it's quite nice, like, evaluate and, you know, just look at yourself a bit deeper like that, because you just generally wouldn't. Well, I don't. And your question is still making me think right now.
and this is the reason that I really enjoy doing this, because like you said, it's these conversations that, you know, even though we share, there's so much I get out of it just by having these conversations. It's making me think, and after each conversation I'm buzzing. I really enjoy these things, you know, and if nothing else, if no one else listens to me, it would be okay, because I've got so much out of it from a selfish point of view, you know. So I'm so thankful, you know, you sharing on this journey, coming along with me on this. And like I said, if I've got anything new that's coming along, I will invite you along if you wanted to share again. But thank you so much. You're doing so many great things in the world, and hopefully you continue. And if there's any help you need from me, and please just reach out, and I can, sure, if I can't help you, I can point you in the direction of someone.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So nice to meet you.
No rest at all. Now, this podcast was Bigger Than the Hustle, and just before we go, just a few thoughts to leave you with. Big energy leads to big thoughts lead to big ideas lead to big actions, and big actions lead to a big life. So keep thinking big. Until next week, goodbye.